to kind of dive into real estate investing, what are some of the risks and benefits of doing so, and what makes a good deal?
Yeah, look, I mean, real estate, like any investment, there's risk with it. I would say one of the biggest and most important to consider is it's generally an illiquid investment, right? Meaning it takes time to sell. Another risk with real estate is just changes in the way we use it, right? Office space, I think, is probably one of the best examples of this. As over the last couple of years, the way Americans work and where they work, certainly has changed. Look at the benefits, right? Real estate it's a real tangible asset. You can see it. It's not just a financial instrument, if you will, and it tends to be a little more stable and doesn't have some of the volatility that you would see in other financial investments. If you think about how do you generally make money in a real estate investment, you've got, in a lot of cases, sort of two components to that, right? One, as you own it, maybe on a quarterly, monthly basis, you get excess cash flow distributions from the investment that make up a part of your return. And then ultimately, when you sell it after a 3, 5, 10-year period, whatever it might be, the expectation of some value appreciation.
So what are some different ways that the average investor can invest in real estate?
One we see, often is a real hands-on approach, right? An individual, owns a single-family home in a neighborhood close by, or a couple apartment units in the city that they live in. There's also, numerous ways and more of a hands-off, passive approach to it. Owning a stock in a REIT, it's a real estate investment trust. Those are typically publicly traded. And then others are more direct, if you think of, being a limited partner, where, you are, as a limited partner, you're providing investment capital, along with, generally an experienced owner or developer. Another common form that we see that is direct, but still passive, is more of a discretionary fund, right? Where you, as an investor, commit X amount of money to the fund, and then there is a manager of that fund that will go, allocate your funds and other funds, according to a predetermined strategy, but, they pick and choose the markets and the assets.
I think a big hot topic over the last few years, with COVID and the current economic climate, we've seen real estate of all types just kind of hit some major inflation. Both, the value of the real estate, also the cost of rent. Can you talk a little bit about this COVID era of time, the changing trends with real estate and the economic development that you've seen come about?
Yeah, look, I mean, the pandemic has changed and touched but all aspects of our lives. Real estate certainly, is included in that. I think one of the biggest shifts that we've seen from the pandemic, I hit on it a little bit earlier, as it relates to office space, right? It shifts where we work, how we work, occupancy of a building, and the amount that the tenants pay for it ultimately drives the value of that building, right? Less occupants, lower rent, lower overall value. Vice versa, is the same. So you certainly that's still playing out, and I think will play out, for a number of years. Retail, is another part of real estate that has certainly seen a lot of transition. We've seen many big box retailers, Target, Walmart, using their vast retail real estate footprint to use those sites as distribution centers. Late 2021 into 2022, we just saw record levels of rent growth in almost all markets throughout the country. Likewise, occupancy at property. Properties were also from a multifamily perspective, at a historically high level, and just a lot of changes to migration patterns, right? Where people live, where they have to live for their jobs, and we've just seen all sorts of shifts and movements. We also work on development opportunities where we build apartment communities throughout the country. That certainly has been impacted by this as well, right? While rents increasing at the levels that they did certainly increases property values from an investment perspective. And finally, certainly, and in a lot of folks' mind right now is the recent quick rise in interest rates that we've seen. A leveraged asset like real estate certainly is subject to that. And
if people are thinking of investing in a deal, whether, it's a really structured deal or one of those crowdfunding deals, can you give us some, I guess, just key points or facts to consider?
First and foremost, who you're investing with, right? The owner or the developer, what's their level of experience? Who's investing alongside you, right? Whether it's the sponsor, or the developer of a property, are they investing their own money? Or an advisor or friend that's bringing you an opportunity, are they also investing in the transaction? Finally, like any investment, there's fees and costs associated with it. And some real estate investments, have higher levels of fees and costs, some less. Fees that are geared more towards performance and, performance-based profit sharing structures tend to be best.